Jujutsu Kaisen has a very well written and powerful character that many people seem to overlook. This character makes his debut during the Calling Game arc and will play a major role in Season 3 of the anime. He's stylish and always knows how to make an entrance. I'm sure you can guess who I'm talking about.
If you are unsure on who is going to win, always bet on
Higuruma. It's Higuruma. Ever since Yuji met this dude just sitting in a bathtub on a stage, I've been obsessed with this character. There's something about him that makes him so interesting, and the best part about him is the fact that his backstory takes place within a single chapter. To sum it up, Higuruma is a defense attorney, and we watch as he struggles to defend a man that has been convicted of murder despite being aware of the man's innocence. There's tons of evidence that suggests the man is guilty, evidence like the murder weapon being found in his client's home, and the fact that he fled from police during questioning, all things which can be explained, I should point out. Despite the sheer amount of information suggesting a guilty verdict, Higuruma stays by his client's side throughout the entire process. He believes this man is innocent and wants to see his client free. In Higuruma's own words, ever since I was a kid, I couldn't leave things alone if they weren't right. Lady Justice wears a blindfold to represent the law's impartiality, and people close their eyes to the truth. But in order to not deny the hands that reach out for my help, even if I'm the only one, I want to keep my eyes open. Higuruma is a man that always wants to do the right thing, regardless of biases. Unfortunately, Higuruma is always treated poorly from his clients, even after doing everything he can to help them. His clients look at him like it's his fault. We see Higuruma mentally struggling with this happening to him. Fortunately, in this case, Higuruma was able to get an innocent verdict during his trial due to some new evidence that further proves his client's innocence. His client breaks down and thanks Higuruma, not for winning the trial, but for simply believing in him. Sadly, Higuruma knew that this wasn't the end. The media backlash from the trial was all negative, stating that the verdict was bought. The prosecution appealed and brought about a second trial. Higuruma, being on the defense, doesn't have access to tons of tax money and manpower which the prosecution does have access to. To put it into Fortnite terms, Higuruma was rebooted with only a gray pistol. He has to somehow defeat an entire squad of streamers that have a gang of stream snipers feeding them good loot. It's essentially impossible to win. Even with this power, the prosecution failed to provide any evidence supporting a guilty verdict. Despite all of the evidence Higuruma had proving his client to be innocent, the jury had still settled on a guilty verdict. That's simply the way the system works. But the system had branded him guilty from the start. There was no winning. Higuruma was always going to lose, and like usual, his client blamed him. Why do they look at me like that? Why is he being treated like this even though he's the only one trying to help? This trial was Higuruma's breaking point. The system was broken and it needed to be fixed. As everyone in the courtroom prepares to leave, Higuruma gets up in front of everyone. Holding a gavel, he tells everyone to come back. We're having a retrial. This panel right here is one of my favorites of the entire series. It's hard to explain, but the reason Higuruma is so likable is because he's so human. His domain expansion is so unique in the sense that it's not lethal. It's just a court trial that remains unbiased towards both parties. Back during the Calling Game arc, Yuji is deemed guilty of gambling while underage and is forced to fight with Higuruma. Eventually, Yuji figures out Higuruma's domain and requests a retrial. During the retrial, Yuji is convicted of mass murder on Halloween in Shibuya. Yuji instantly confesses to his crimes despite all of us knowing that it was actually Sukuna who had committed mass murder in Shibuya. Judgment then gives Yuji the harshest penalty it can give: death penalty with confiscation. This gives Higuruma an executioner's sword that will kill anything with one cut, as well as taking the cursed energy away from his opponent. However, the evidence that Judgment had shared with Higuruma shows that Yuji was innocent. Knowing this, Higuruma stops fighting and tells Yuji it wasn't his fault. Higuruma was sick of the weakness in people. He found it ugly. However, seeing Yuji weak and beaten reminded Higuruma of what he fights for. Literally and figuratively fights for. He despises the weakness in people, but even if he has to be the only one trying, Higuruma will try. Higuruma is such a refreshing character in Jujutsu Kaisen. He's not a Jujutsu sorcerer, he's not a curse user, he's just a regular guy with a unique story that awakened a powerful ability. He's just so human, so grounded, and that's why I find his character so interesting. I'm excited to see him animated, and I believe many people will fall in love with this character. I feel that Higuruma deserves much more recognition that he regularly receives, which is what inclined me to make this video. He truly is a hidden gem.